Hey guys, Matt here. This is my review of Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom. This movie is directed by James Wan, who previously directed Fast and Furious 7 and the first Aquaman movie. This movie stars Jason Momoa, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, Patrick Wilson, Nicole Kidman, and Tamara Morrison. The plot of this movie is Black Manta is back seeking revenge on Aquaman, and he uses the power of this legendary black trident that he discovers. And so, in order to stop this evil force, Aquaman must team up with an unlikely ally. When they announced they were making an Aquaman 2, I wasn't exactly clamoring for a sequel because even though the first one was enjoyable, the DCEU was coming to an end, so I really didn't know what future King of the Seas had in this universe. But I knew the film was going to have some nice visuals. I enjoy Patrick Wilson as an actor, so having him come back was nice, and I like the character of Black Manta. So, having seen the movie, well, it's got some nice visuals, and that's about it. So let me start with the acting in this movie. Jason Momoa as Aquaman. Well, if you like a guy that's pretty manly, curses a lot, thinks it's cool being a king, and helps out when he absolutely needs to, that's your guy. That's Aquaman in this movie. He's the same as the first one. He makes being a cool king look cool. Yeah. And then you have Patrick Wilson as Ocean Master, almost the opposite of what Arthur Curry is. He's a man who takes everything he does with honor, is ready to face consequences when he needs to. You know, he's pretty straight-laced. And that's one of the things that made this movie so enjoyable was the banter between these two characters who couldn't have been more different, finding similarities in one another. And then you have, I think his name's David Carter, the character name of Black Manta in this, played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. He's fine in this movie. I feel like he had a lot more drive in the first one, which I'll get to plot-wise in a moment. So it's nice to see that character back, but he wasn't really given a whole lot to do. The other side characters are just there. I felt like aside from Arthur Curry and Orem, the Ocean Master, the film didn't really need to focus on any of the other side characters. They just brought them all back because the story was, well, what the story is. Now, the visuals are probably the highlight of this movie. It wasn't Avatar, The Way of Water, nor could it even compete with that. But there's a lot of ocean scenes, a lot of environments, a lot of creatures and stuff that made this movie stand out. Now, I saw this movie in 3D, and honestly, I can tell you that aside from, you know, your tropes of like chains going across the screen or characters reaching out, there's only one scene really worthy of the 3D aspect, and that was these giant grasshoppers leaping at the screen. I know that sounds ridiculous, but some of this movie kinda is. So one of my issues with the film is the antagonist. Now, the trailer depicts the bad guy as Black Manta, which he is. He's the driving force of everything that's pretty much going against Aquaman, the Kingdom of Atlantis, and everything else. But the character of Black Manta finds this evil black trident, which possesses him. So now you have this entity inside him that wants to go against Arthur and the Atlanteans, and then you have Black Manta who wants his own revenge plot against Arthur because of what happened in the first film. And when you do that, you know, they should have done one or the other. Because they have a possessed Black Manta in this movie, there's really no personality of his own. It's just a vessel for this evil entity to go into to exact his revenge, and that's it. There's no depth there, no pun intended. Also, because this story is quite simple, almost like a video game, it's like they felt they had to bring back every character from the first one, albeit one character and probably the best actor in the entire franchise, into this movie to kind of make up for the story that's not great. And yes, Amber Heard is back in this movie, but she doesn't have a lot of dialogue. You can tell that she doesn't look as good. I mean, she's attractive still, but seems like she put on a little bit of weight. It felt like her role, her character, her scenes were added in afterwards. Nicole Kidman is back in this film, and she has more dialogue than Amber Heard does. Heck, Dolph Lundgren is back in this movie, and he's got more dialogue than Amber Heard does. So I just wanted to mention the Amber Heard thing real quick. So even the music, it's got some rock and roll songs, but that's really to just reflect Arthur Curry's personality as a person. When he's not taking care of his kid, he's drinking Guinness with his dad. There's not a whole lot of king ruling in this movie, because when there is, he's got to answer like this council. Anyways, the movie was just underwhelming. Again, the banter and the back and forth between Arthur Curry and Orm were the only two characters worth watching. The only reason you'd probably want to see this movie is to see how they interact with one another. Which leads me to the post-credit scene in this movie. It's pretty dumb. It's just a running joke that's introduced about halfway through the movie, involving, I'll just say, a certain delicacy that Ohm tries for the first time. But other than that, it's really not worth seeing. So yeah, we get Aquaman 2. We get what seemingly feels like a forced sequel. This felt a lot like G.I. Joe, the first one, just in tone. It's comedic, it has action scenes, but after a while, it just all becomes visual noise. It's a bunch of colors, it's a bunch of underwater people, but the whole time they're underwater, you're distracted by their hair just flowing in a general direction. And you can barely understand the characters. A lot of this dialogue felt, just muffled out by the action or the music on screen. It was really weird. It was hard to understand a lot of the conversations that were being had, but a lot of it was just exposition, so it's not like you really had to listen to it. So, because Aquaman 2 was disappointing, there's not a whole lot to say about this one. Again, the Jason Momoa, Patrick Wilson banter is the best thing about this movie. Visually, it looked cool, but again, after a while, it's just all a bunch of bright colors and everything, and it just all blends together. So because of that, I'm going to give Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom a C-. They can do better, and hopefully with the new reboot of the DC Universe, we'll get something more spectacular. So until next time, guys, see ya.